Welcome, flip clock fans. You're looking at a Westclox flip clock. It's the Westclox Digilume Dialite, model number 22102. I saw this on eBay, and I've seen them before, and I thought it was curious. I just wanted to check this out closer. Now, to turn this, you have to pull out and turn. You see it went the wrong way at first. And to set the alarm, you push in and then turn the opposite way. Now, the mechanism I've seen before, and maybe you guys can remember where you've seen it before. And we'll get a closer look at that. And there's some problems with the clock we're going to address. Well, here it is, the Westclox 22102. We're going to talk a little bit about Westclox and their flip clocks. In 1977, this clock was advertised, and it's one of the few advertisements I ever saw of this clock. It appeared in their catalog in 1976. And that was the only time I ever saw it in the catalogs. I don't think it went over really well, which makes it more collectible, I'd say. My opinion, anyway. Now, why didn't they have that many flip clocks, Westclox? Well, they were really big into this type of system here with the flat numerals. Now, that's not a rolling wheel clock. It's a proprietary system that they had, and I think they were really trying to push it. You can see all the different clocks that had that. I had no idea there were this many clocks that had that mechanism. And here you can see a little illustration there on the left of the mechanism itself. They were really proud of it, you can see. So what it is, there it is here, they call it a tape system. To me it looks like film. It looks just like film. It's very thin and you can pass light from the back through it, so it's truly backlit. And they called it a revolutionary tape digital clock, or a quiet tape system with backlighted numerals. Now, they had very few flip clock radios. They had some wind-up flip clocks. Now, they did have a couple flip clocks that were branded Westclox, and they look like knockoffs from the Seth Thomas, because you know, Seth Thomas and Westclox were different divisions of the same company. So that's why I kind of got the clock. I thought it was curious, and I wanted to get a look at it. You may have noticed something strange about the clock, and I want to talk about it. It's the dark effect. Neon bulbs, also called lamps, have two electrodes in a sealed glass bulb which is filled with a neon-argon gas mixture. When electricity is applied, the gas ionizes and starts to glow. However, neons are prone to a condition called the dark effect. This means to make a lamp glow when in a dark environment, a drastic increase in the amount of voltage is required unless there's some ambient light present to help the ionization of the gas along. The lower the light levels, the more voltage is needed to get the lamp started. Neon lamps can also become erratic in total darkness, giving them this flicker flame look. To address this problem, most of the neon lamps used for lighting of clocks included the addition of a radioactive gas, often krypton-85, to help start the ionization process and keep the light burning steadily. Krypton-85 decays over time, resulting in the condition you see here. Now, actually, it's kind of cool looking, in a way, but it's not the way I'm going to roll with my clock, so it wasn't supposed to be like that. And I'm going to get a little wild. Many of you know that I like to keep clocks original, but I'm going to put a green neon in here. It'll be easily reversed if someone wanted to go back to the original. All right, so we're going to take a closer look at the clock so I can get to it and do some fixing up here a little bit. You have to get the face off to get to it. They've painted the outside of this front, which I wouldn't have advised. And I didn't think the alarm had an indicator, but if you look, there's an indentation there. This little piece here, it's really flimsy. It looks like something you'd cook your ramen noodles in. And there you get the first look at the mechanism up close. It's really jammed in there pretty good. That's cat hair. Now, where did that come from? Anyway, there's a screw there when I first took this apart. And believe it or not, the head had been twisted off. And one of my pet peeves, as you may know, is people really torquing down their nuts, or their screws, or their nuts. There's no need for that. And it took me a while to get that clock out of here the first time, because I couldn't see where it was hung up, and I had to drill it out. So when you're removing the mechanism, there's a tendency to want to pull knobs off. especially with the copals. This, you don't do that. You will destroy your clock. You just kind of pull it out at an angle. And it's going to be easy to clean this because I'll get everything apart, get that case washed up. So you can see what we got going on here. That's a capsule motor. That's called a General Time M5 capsule motor. That's a motor that they often used with their tape systems. Well, I'd say probably exclusively used with their tape system. And that's probably why they said it's made in America, this clock. I don't think that mechanism was, but we know the motor was, and it was probably assembled in America. It's a solid, contained motor. It comes out of that cage. You can actually pull that capsule out, place it or whatever. They didn't last as long as the copals, so some people have gone in there and put wool in there. Now you can see that little spring thing right there. It was out of that hole when I first came. Now look at that. That's why the clock was going backwards. That's supposed to be touching those gears. Now I have a feeling somebody may have disabled that because about every 2 or 3 minutes you'll hear a tink as that gear passes over that little piece of spring metal there. That would get on your nerves. So I'll go ahead and put it back. Now if you don't have kids, you might want to actually disable that. See, it doesn't turn back now. So you look at this and say, now where have I seen this mechanism before? It looks familiar. Well, those flip clocks I showed you earlier, the wind-up flip clocks, almost certainly used this mechanism. And we have a flip clock here that you may have seen, or a model type. This is a Bradley wind-up flip clock. Now there are other clocks, Elgin, other brands, that look almost exactly the same. And I believe these were mostly all made in Japan using this same mechanism. So we're going to break into this Bradley just to show you that it is the same mechanism. So as I do that, it's funny, you have to take the front off to even get started with these clocks. But they've maintained some of their flexibility, so it's not too hard. So I'm going to take these 2 screws off in the back. And that's the beauty of the mechanism that they made, the engineering. So you can see there's places for screws there. So they made that mechanism, and I'm sure it was Japanese made. They made that mechanism so it could have many applications. See, it's a wind-up. It's got the wind-up alarm, wind-up clock. And pretty much the same, you can see. I'll go ahead and get this off. You look at that Dialite, that would be a really good reason perhaps to purchase one. It would be a replacement mechanism if you had a problem with one of your wind-up clocks, if you have one of these. But these mechanisms are so good, they don't really mess up that much. Sorry I'm taking all this time here, but I thought you might want to get a closer look just to double check me on this. We'll see for sure that it actually is the same mechanism. It absolutely is. No light, of course. It has an alarm indicator there, whereas the other one didn't. And it's got this bell housing of the wind-up spring mechanism instead of this. It's an interesting application. Like we said, it didn't really go over that well. But that's why I like it. So here's these two brothers, or cousins, side by side. Oh, you may notice something there on the left. Got a little bit of a green tinge going on. So I did get in there and change to my green neons. Now I got those off eBay years ago. And they're vintage, new old stock. I don't think they make them like this anymore. These things will last. And they give off a nice emerald glow. It's a little darker than what's shown here. Well, there it is, the Westclox Digilume Dialite model 22102. Kind of a nice little clock. I like it. Thanks for taking the time.